My name's Dan Dunlap, Regional Manager for the Cincinnati area of ERA, and today we are going to talk all about the mindset reset, unlocking a fresh perspective for growth and success. And at least most of the Cincinnati people on this call know how much I promote the challenges, the motivational Mondays, the importance of the mindset in anything in life. And that's why we're really focusing on this today as we lead into our coaching in January, which leads right up to Fuel in February, which then in turn will lead right into Alex Vidal's coaching in the spring. So again, we are the coaching brand, and this is just a start to a string of great coaching and mentoring opportunities. All right, my goal for each and every one of you today or watching this in the future is very simple. I want you to take away one thing from this presentation that can help you personally or professionally by the end of the presentation that you are watching. So what I mean by this is all too often in life, we bog ourselves down with so many different goals that when you go to try to work on your goals, you don't know which one to start on. Or you do every goal halfway, and next thing you know, you haven't really completed any of your main goals, and you kind of just started on them or completed them halfway, and you never finished them. That's why I go straight to the point. Where you focus is where you succeed. I want you to take away one thing from all the different slides we're going to talk about. Take away one, incorporate it into your personal and professional life. That is my goal. Speaking of goal setting, I think it's very important to start off with this. You got to remember, when you are trying to set your 2025 goals with your managers, make sure that every goal that you write down, and make sure you do write that down, every goal has to have a number. We've all been to that place before, whether it's a gym or at a Christmas party, where somebody will say, oh, my goal for 2025 is to lose weight. Well, guess what? That is not what we call a SMART goal. And the SMART goals I go over with all of our agents in Cincinnati that I meet for business planning purposes. SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So that goal that you hear your buddies say that they want to lose weight in 2025. Well, is it specific? Not really, because you didn't know what weight you're starting at and what weight you want to get to. Is it measurable? Well, based off that, it's not really measurable because you haven't taken your starting weight. Is it attainable? Well, how do you attain something if you don't know where you're starting from? Is it relevant? Well, that's up to each and every person to understand if it's relevant or not. And then it has to be time bound. So the SMART goal is going to have to tie into number one on this list of every goal must have a number. I promise you, this is so simple. But if you as agents start putting your goals down in this form of being a SMART goal, or if you managers on this call start working with your agents and having a SMART process to get their goals down on paper, it's so much easier to hold yourself accountable or to have somebody hold you accountable. All right, motivation. So my boy Zig Ziglar, my favorite motivational speaker of all time. I've got most of his books on my iPhone that I listen to throughout the year over and over again. He said motivation is a lot like filling up your gas tank. You need to do it daily or weekly. You don't wait until your car runs out of gas before you go to the gas station to fill up. The same is true with our mindset. The same is true with the motivation to succeed in life, whether it's personally or professionally. So you don't wait till you're totally down and out and you're just so stressed out to the max, whether it's personally, professionally, that you need a pick-me-up. So then you'll read a book or listen to a motivational CD or speech or something. If you do it daily or weekly, you continue to fill up your gas tank. Now, I like to use the example too of nowadays we're in the world of EV. So just imagine you have a Tesla. You drive it for 4 straight days until the battery goes totally dead on you on the highway. You cruise over to the side of the road. you get the tow truck to tow it back to your garage so you can charge it up again. That would be a pain in the butt to do that every single week. So why not just charge it up every night when you go to bed? Same thing with your mind. Charge your mind up, fill your gas tank up of your body. Make sure that you are ready and willing to be able to do this daily or weekly, because the results will be there. Attitude. Let's talk about this important word that I think is so underestimated and underused in mindset and coaching. One of my favorites, your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude. And my uncle, who I hold in high regards, has taught me a lot about things in life, real estate, construction, you name it. He used to have this saying in big, bold letters on his refrigerator. Every time I went into his house for years, I saw this, and it made me think, gosh, your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude. So, pretty much how you respond to the shit that happens in your life. Pardon my French, but every single one of us that's with ERA has had bad stuff happen to us, deals gone wrong at the last second, stuff that's out of your control. But what you can control is your mind and how you respond to what happens to you. That is your attitude, not your aptitude. For those of you that don't know what aptitude is your natural God-given ability to do something. Now, how many of you can sit here watching this recording or live today, remember a friend that you grew up with that was either stunningly beautiful or just an incredible athlete, naturally, just God-given ability where they didn't seem to work hard at it? But yet you see them age, and you see the fact that they did not put in hard work in keeping their looks or keeping their athletic talent or keeping their mind sharp for the unbelievable natural IQ they had. And next thing you know, they never reached the mountaintop. They never got to the altitude of somebody that has that positive attitude. So that's why I absolutely love this when we talk about attitude and mindset. Because no matter what happens, good or bad in life, it is your attitude and how you choose to respond to whatever's happened to you, not your natural God-given ability. That's going to determine your altitude of how far you end up going in life. So really, if you can start thinking more about the attitude and making that a choice of how you respond, that can be the difference between you being stressed out at the end of the night or you going to bed sleeping peacefully. All right, speaking of intelligence, I know that word sometimes when I talk to people, they don't understand what aptitude is. So I thought I'd throw this in from our boy. We call him Socrates. Some people refer to him as Socrates. He's so old, like Captain Ron, that there's not even a picture of him. It's a drawing. The beginning of wisdom is the defining of terms. And the reason I love putting that in this presentation right now is because when I work with agents and they're setting their goals, they're putting their mission down on paper, define what that means. I'm always amazed at when one of the agents will put down a goal or put down a mission or a vision. You know, they're creating their company. And I ask them, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, what do you mean? What does that mean? I'm saying, what is that word? What is that statement that you just gave me? What does that mean? You would be amazed how many agents cannot define the terms, the vocabulary that actually make up that sentence. So for the previous example, when I'm talking to you about attitude and you don't know what the word aptitude means, well, gosh, you're kind of like, okay, your attitude, but I don't know what aptitude. I'm trying to fill that blank in, and that determines my altitude in life. If you don't know the vocab, if you don't know how to define those terms, then you're going to struggle with putting the sentences, putting the thoughts together. So I love this about Socrates. Now I'm saying it wrong. The beginning of wisdom is the defining of terms. So again, for you agents, when you go to write down your 2025 goals and create that business plan, or you managers, when you're working with your agents, make sure you actually define those terms. What does each term mean? in the context of your goal or your mission or your vision. I promise you, when you spend the time and go through this exercise, your goals are going to be much more clear. Your vision is going to be more clear. Your mission of what your real estate company is set out to do is going to be front and in the forefront of your mind. So I challenge you to do that. Success. I love this one. The only place in this world that you can find success before work is the dictionary. And that was a quote from a longtime friend and mentor of mine, Ron Roth. So Ron is the broker of the oldest real estate brokerage in Cincinnati called Irwin I. Roth. That's how I got my start. Ron Roth was my longtime JV golf coach as I was the head varsity coach. So it was kind of funny for many years. I was his boss when it came to Moeller High School. He was my boss when it came to real estate. But anyway, he used to tell the kids in our golf team this all the time, and I loved it. The only place in the world you can find success before work is the dictionary. So it comes down to the work that you got to put in. And unfortunately, us older people on the call, we tend to look back on the current generation and say, oh my gosh, where's their work ethic? You know, back in my day, when I was 14, 15 years old, we were working 2 jobs. We were walking to school, this and that. So again, everybody has a different definition, defining the word work, defining the word success. Everybody defines that differently. But remember, you got to put in the work before you're going to have that success in life. It's like the great saying of standing at the stove of life, and you're yelling at the stove and saying, heat me, stove, and then I'll put wood into you. And that's not how it works. We got to put the wood, we got to do the work, we got to chop down the wood, we got to put the wood into the fireplace in order to stand there and reap the benefits of the heat. But all too often nowadays, 2024, people they want that warmth. They want the benefits without putting in the work, and you can't do it. You got to work before you're going to have that success. Where you focus is where you succeed. This is another one of my friends and mentors in the zoo and aquarium world that taught me a lot. He was the one that got me into my master's program where I got to travel around the earth, and the experience was an experience of a lifetime. But he always used to tell me, because I tend to have very large, grand thoughts, ideas, plans. But the problem is I needed to focus. I needed to, instead of thinking about 3 things at once, I needed to focus on one thing and one thing only. And when I focused on that, did it well, then I could add that tool to my tool belt. And then once I had that tool in my tool belt, it was always going to be there. Then I could move on to learn something else. The same thing when I work with a lot of new agents. We've had a lot of new agents join ERA in the Cincinnati area this past year. When I work with them, I use this saying because I don't want our agents 1 week calling for sale by owners, and then next week they're talking to investors. Then the 3rd week, they're talking to new builds. And then the 4th week, they're circling it back around to me and saying, you know what, I'm trying all these things, but nothing's working. I don't want our agents throwing stuff against the wall and see what sticks. I want them to focus, because where they focus is where they're going to ultimately succeed. So that's where we as an organization need to make sure that we understand this principle, that we need to not cast that broad net to see what we pull up out of the ocean, but we need to target specifically, what are we going to fish for? What are we trying to accomplish? And then we work our butts off until we accomplish that, and then we can move on to the next one. Throwing a little bit of finance in here when it comes to the mindset, because I don't know about you, but I know many of the agents I talk to in the Cincinnati area, one of the reasons they're in real estate is because of the financial benefit they can get from it. So one of the books, many of you know this because I've referenced it multiple times in presentations I've given. One of my favorite books of all time is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's absolutely changed my life when I first read it in 2003 or 4, and then bought my first investment property 6 months later and been hooked ever since. But Robert Kiyosaki said the rich buy assets which in turn create money to use for their lifestyle, meaning the assets fund their lifestyle, their cars, their houses, their trips. The poor buy liabilities. Know the difference between an asset and a liability. Unfortunately, most people in this world, including the great country of America, don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability. And one of the reasons, too, I'm talking to you about this right now because of mindset is use this as a tool in your tool belt to talk to your clients about this. Make sure that your clients are focusing on adding assets such as real estate instead of, oh, let's go out and buy a new car. Let's go out and buy a new brand new 80-inch TV. Let's go buy the brand new iPhone that we're going to have to make payments on every month. So know the difference between an asset and a liability. And when you as an agent can talk to your clients about this, it just makes you look more professional and more credible on a larger scale than just talking real estate. And I love this too. I had to throw it in there. The rich make money while they sleep, meaning when the rich buy assets such as real estate, gold, silver, companies, stocks, bonds, CDs, whatever it is, they go to bed at night and they're getting rich because their money's working for them. The poor, on the other hand, they go clock in at 8 a.m., they clock out at 5 p.m. When they go to bed at night, they're not making any money because they're not clocked in. So make sure that you are also investing in assets that are going to produce cash flow, that monthly income, instead of buying all the liabilities. Coaching. All right. I am a big fan of Coach K. I'm not a huge fan of Duke. Let's just be clear. I'm not a Duke bandwagon. I just love Coach K. He's written multiple books. You know, he was, I think, a coach for 37 years, maybe it was 40 years at Duke, turned this little tiny school of a few thousand students into a national powerhouse. I've referenced Coach K many times in my 20-year coaching career in sports, but this story I'm going to tell you about is from one of his books, and it's absolutely phenomenal when it comes to coaching. So Shane Battier was one of his players on his team in the late 90s. He started in 97, played 98, 99, and then his last year at Duke was 2000. In 1999, Duke lost in the Final Four. Shane Battier was a starter on the team, but he wasn't a star by any means. But they lost in the Final Four that year. So the summer going into the year 2000, Shane Battier's senior year, Shane Battier's in his hometown of Chicago, Illinois. Coach K's down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Coach K, this was before they had cell phones. Coach K calls Shane Battier's home phone. Shane picks up. The only thing Coach K says is, Shane, you are going to be a first league all ACC player next year and lead us to a league championship. And Shane Battier was like, there was no pleasantries. He was like, oh yeah, sure, coach. Click. Coach K hung up the phone on him. Shane immediately calls him back, doesn't get him, calls him back multiple times. Coach K never picks up. And Shane Battier's left for the rest of the week. He's like, what was that? Next week, same thing. Coach K calls Shane. Shane picks up. Coach K's like, you are going to lead us to the Final Four this year, and you are going to be an all-tournament player. And Shane Battier's like, okay, click. Coach K hangs up on him. Shane Battier's like, second week in a row, what's going on here? So he's thinking this whole week, what's he going to say next time Coach K calls? Third week goes by. Coach K calls him again from Raleigh to Chicago. Said, Shane, you are going to be the player of the year in Division I basketball and lead us to the national championship. Shane said, Coach, I'm ready to go. Tell me what we need to do. And Coach K said, that's exactly what I wanted to hear out of you. And guess what? Shane Battier led Duke to the national title in 2000, was player of the year, won all the accolades. But all that success started by a great coach knowing how to push the right buttons. Coach K wasn't going to deal with this. Oh, yeah, sure, Coach. Yeah, I love the fact that you're telling me I can be player of the year. Shane Battier did not believe it. He did not believe in himself at that point. It took him 3 weeks of these phone calls of like, what the heck's going on, to realize I get what coach is trying to get me to do. I do believe in myself. I am going to lead Duke University to a national championship. So again, one of my favorite stories about Coach K, if you ever get a chance to read some of his books, he talks about the mindset. He talks about teamwork. Just the fundamentals of success are through and through with his teaching. So I wanted to share that story with you on coaching. All right, let's go back to my boy Zig Ziglar. I love Zig. You're getting a little bit of my favorite because it all wraps up into the mindset that we need to have to be productive individuals and succeed. So Zig Ziglar, he says, you are what you are and you are where you are because of what has gone into your mind. You can change what you are and you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. And Zig Ziglar's dead now, but I think he gave this speech back in the early 70s, and it's still so relevant to today. And this is where it takes you as an adult to sit back and ask yourself, where are you right now? Where are you physically? Where are you mentally? Where are you spiritually? Where are you emotionally? You are where you are because what has gone into your mind. So ask yourself the question then, what goes into your mind? Do you listen to, and again, I'm not pushing politics on anybody. Do you listen to CNN every morning? Do you listen to Fox News every morning? Do you listen to 700 WLW? Do you listen to a certain podcast that has certain views and that's all you hear? You are where you are because what has gone into your mind. So I always love saying this to agents when I'm coaching them. I'll take a quarter and I'll show them the quarter and I'll say, guys, how many sides is on this quarter? And most of the time they'll tell me, Dan, 2 sides, heads, tails. I said, absolutely incorrect. I said, what is this edge right here, this rim? Is that a side? And they're like, oh yeah, so it's 3 sides. The smart, intelligent people of the world sit on the edge of the coin and can see both sides, heads and tails. Then they can make an informed decision from there. Don't be that person that only sits on the head side of a coin and can never see around the edge to the tail side. And don't sit on the tail side and never be able to see the head side of an argument, of a topic, of anything. Because you're never going to be able to grow. You're never going to be able to sharpen your mind. Once you start learning to sit on the edge and see both sides of the problem or the argument of whatever it may be, you're going to be more likely to succeed in life. So back to Zig Ziglar here. Think about what's going into your mind. And if you want to change yourself, change what goes into your mind. Choices. All right. Grant Cardone here. Love him or hate him. I think he's fantastic when it comes to his motivation in his books. One book I read every year over and over again is called the 10X Rule. Grant Cardone wrote this thing called the 10X Rule, pretty much stating that any goal you set and you give yourself, a timeline to complete it, you need to give yourself 10 times that amount of time or money to complete whatever goal you set. And then he goes into how to do that. But he once said, as long as you are alive, you will either live to accomplish your own goals and dreams or be used as a resource to accomplish someone else's. So think about that. I give every single one of you listening to this recording right now credit because the fact that you are in real estate means you took the step, you took the chance and stepped out of that 9-to-5 W-2 job, and you are your own boss as far as running your own real estate company. So are you going to continue to work hard to accomplish your own goals and dreams? Or are you going to fail out of this business and have to go back to working wherever at Amazon or bartending or any other job that you're going to be relying on someone else's compensation or tips or anything like that. So just remember that as long as you're alive, you're either going to live to accomplish your own goals and dreams, which I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty damn good, or are you going to be used as a resource to accomplish someone else's? And one thing with Grant Cardone, I can assure you, is he tells you exactly what he thinks. There is no sugarcoating it. And sometimes it's a tough read to have to be like, oh my gosh, I feel like he's talking to me. He's calling me out because I slept in till 8:30 a.m. last Saturday. Okay, the all-important question of why. Simon Sinek. If you guys have 15 minutes and you haven't done it yet, most Cincinnati agents know I've preached this over the years. YouTube Simon Sinek Why. It's about a 15-minute TED Talk and is very, very powerful. And the reason that I want to include this in a mindset talk is because very few people or companies, you listening to this are people and you're your own company, very few can clearly articulate why they do what they do. By why, I mean your purpose, your cause, your belief. Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? Why should anyone care? I love that one. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Now, when I do a business plan meeting with all of our new agents, I make them fill this out and write down exactly why they are in real estate. I want them to write down in detail why they decided to pay the money to go to school, get the classes, get their license. Why are they in real estate? You'd be absolutely amazed when you think to yourself, if you've never done this exercise before, take a couple of minutes today, write it down, type it, I don't care. Put it in words that you can read it. Why are you in real estate? Why? Remember, people don't buy what you do. Okay, you're going to a listing appointment. What do? They buy why you do it. If your listing appointments don't include why you're in real estate, man, you're missing the boat. You have a great opportunity to be able to explain to somebody in detail, defining the terms of why you're in real estate. Imagine you're sitting there and you're Mr. and Mrs. Joe, Melissa homeowner, and you've got a few agents come by that want to sell your for sale by owner. And a couple of them give you their typical presentations, la-di-da, but the third one gives you their why. Looks you in the eye and says, this is why I'm in real estate. This is why I do what I do. This is why I get up in the morning. I'm telling you, that is much more powerful. So if you have not completed your why, I challenge each and every one of you. I don't care who's on this call. I don't care if it's the owner of the company or somebody that just joined ERA and is new to the business. You write down your why you're in real estate. And I would love to hear some feedback when you guys complete your why. Email me. All right, let's talk a little time management, because when we start talking about your mindset in today's age, I don't know about you, but I've got a wife, I got 2 kids, I got dogs, I've got a lot of things going on in life. If I don't manage my time correctly, I'm not going to be able to succeed like we talked about in some of the previous slides. So my favorite time management book of all time is called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. I highly recommend each of you to read this. It has changed my professional life tenfold since I was first introduced to this book back in 2012. So Brian Tracy says the 10-90 rule says that the first 10% of time you spend planning will save you 90% of the time in the execution. Now, that is just one of many good things he talks about in this book. But what he's really saying in this is the night before, will type out my whole next day in my phone in my notes section. I am a planner. That's how it frees me up to focus on what needs to be done first and foremost. I plan my day. Sure, do I allow some time for flexibility and wiggle room for the stuff that pops up at the last minute? I do. But only if I've accomplished my main task first during the day. That's what Eat That Frog is. Nobody wants to eat a frog. Not one person wants to eat a live frog sitting on a plate first thing in the morning. That frog is a metaphor for your most important task that you can work on and complete that day. But all too often, we humans, we're procrastinators, right? We time block and say, you know what, I'm going to work on making calls to for sale by owners, or I'm going to make calls to my sphere of influence from 10 to 11 a.m. this morning. 10 a.m. starts. You're sitting down at the kitchen table. Next thing you know, Amazon delivery comes. So you get up, grab the box, put away some stuff. Okay, you sit back down. Next thing you're like, oh man, I forgot. I got to do laundry. So you get a load of laundry started. Next thing you know, you get a random text from a friend, and next you're texting with them for 5-10 minutes. An hour goes by, and you have not accomplished anything on your most important task. You have not taken one bite of that frog. By the time the afternoon comes, that frog is bigger, juicier, uglier, meaning that priority that you needed to accomplish today has still not done. And in the back of your brain knows that you have to work on this. You have to accomplish this task. And when you finally start doing it, it's going to be a lot harder than just waking up in the morning, setting aside your time blocking, spending that time to eat that frog, working on your most important task of the day that's going to cause the biggest positive impact personally or professionally in your life. And I would also urge you to try writing down in a calendar, wherever, on your phone, try mapping out your day the night before. Or you do that, statistics show if you can do something 23 straight days in a row, it's going to become a habit. If you can do it for 23 straight days, I can assure you that you are going to be more productive. Your mind's going to be sharper. You're going to be able to focus more on the things that mean the most to you by mapping out your day ahead of time. All right, so let's talk about today. We mapped out what we're going to do last night, at least I did. Now today, one of my favorite authors, he's a retired Navy SEAL turned entrepreneur. His name's Mark Divine. I've read a few of his books on the Navy SEALs, and I've incorporated some of the Navy SEALs mottos and other things into my life, my coaching. One of the things that the Navy SEALs say is all in, all the time. So when I was a coach of a team for 20 years, I made T-shirts for our workouts in the off season, and every single one of us had a Moeller Golf T-shirt on the front with the saying on the back, all in, all the time. Because how many high school golf programs were actually working out in July when it's 100 degrees in that weight room because it didn't have air conditioning? That was a way for us to mentally build ourselves and make sure that we could handle any challenges that the season faced. But Mark Divine, I love this quote. In one of his books, he says, "Do today what others won't, so you can do tomorrow what others can't." So it goes back to the previous slide of if you plan your day out and you say from 11 to 12 p.m. today, I am calling for sale by owners, because I know a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of agents don't want to do that. So if you're doing that today because others won't, then tomorrow, when you get that meeting with a for sale by owner, because out of 50 of them that you called, 3 of them actually talked to you and 1 of them actually gave you an appointment, you are going to be able to list that house because of what you did the day before. Do today what others won't, so you can do tomorrow what others can't. The people that didn't make the phone calls today are not going to be able to list that house tomorrow. Same thing with me in my position in trying to recruit more agents to ERA. I can't magically wish that people just show up and knock on our door. If I don't make the calls today, then I can't get them to sign with us tomorrow. So that's such a powerful statement from that book, and that's why I wanted to put it in here, Because if you just think of that, if that's your one thing that you take away is, okay, what can I do today so I don't procrastinate, so I can do something tomorrow that the others can't? It's a way to get ahead in life and business. All right, here's my boy, Tim Tebow, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. I'm a huge Denver Bronco fan. He followed a long legacy of great quarterbacks such as John Elway, Peyton Manning. But anyway, Tim Tebow is an accomplished author. If you've never heard any of his speeches, they're very powerful. His books are great. I can neither confirm nor deny. I have a golden doodle dog at home named Tebow, which some of you might have seen in a Motivational Monday post. But Tim said, hard work can beat talent when talent doesn't work as hard. He said that in one of his books called This Is the Day, meaning take advantage of the day. But this goes back to what I was talking to you before. How many of us know that naturally good-looking or talented or smart individual in high school, they ended up living in poverty and they're struggling as an adult in their 40s and 50s? Hard work can beat talent. So just because you may not have been blessed with, a high IQ or natural ability to do things, hard work can overcome all of that. There are so many examples out there of people that were born with learning disorders or physically disabled, and yet they never let that overcome what they wanted to accomplish in life because they worked their butt off. So again, Tim Tebow, he was not the greatest quarterback. He had a lot of grit, a lot of determination. His NFL career wasn't very long, but he made it there because he worked his butt off when a lot of other guys had just the natural talent to get to the pros. He had to dig a little deeper and work a little harder, and that's why I love this quote from him. All right, time. Let's journey in 2025 about Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. I'm not going to go into any detail right now, but it's a great book. I just finished it the other day. Napoleon Hill said, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start today where you stand and work with whatever tools you may, whatever tools you may have at your command. Better tools will be found as you go forward." Think of all the people that you've heard in your life that say, "Oh, I'm waiting for the time's right. Oh, I'm waiting until." How many of your clients say, "Oh, I'm waiting until the interest rates are better"? But yet, if you can show them the statistic that if you buy a house today, what it's going to be worth next year is going to be a lot more than the money they're going to save on a 1% interest rate deduction. Things like that. Do not wait for yourself. Do not wait. Make the calls today. The time's never going to be right to add another tool to your real estate tool belt. Start with whatever tool you have at your command and just start working hard, like Tim Tebow said. If you do that, if you just work, you are going to succeed. You are going to find more tools that are going to attract to you. And that is because of the work that you are putting in. You're not waiting for when it's just right. And all too often people are saying, "Oh, I'm going to start. Oh, it's December 3rd. I'm just going to wait until January 1st before I start to get my exercise plan in." Well, you know what? That's easy to say, but I read this one time where we ourselves give our present self right now, we give our future self a lot more credit because we always think our future self's going to do something that our present self is not able to do, such as say no to that cheeseburger and fries for lunch or say no to that extra glass of wine after dinner. We always tell our future self, "Oh, we're going to be able to say no." And I'm completely guilty of that as well. And so, yeah, that's why I love this part about the book, Think and Grow Rich, is time. Do not wait. Start today with whatever you want to accomplish. All right. SFT. I'm sure many of you on this call probably have never heard of Dr. Bob Rotella. Dr. Bob Rotella is my favorite sports psychologist of all time. He's worked with many athletes in many different sports. And I was lucky enough one year that I had a parent on the golf team I coached that paid for him to fly in. And we rented a room at the Montgomery and Boat House. And I got to pick his brain for about 3 hours. I've got all of his books, but anyway, Dr. Bob Rotella is the leading sports psychologist in many different sports. And he has this saying, SFT, see it, visualize it. So when it comes to you, personally or professionally, I want each and every one of you to see what your life looks like when that goal is accomplished. If that goal is losing the weight, if that goal is a financial goal of making enough money in 2025 to build an in-ground pool or to send your kids off to college and be able to pay for that without any student debt, whatever you wrote down, whatever SMART goal you wrote down for 2025, I want you to see it. I want you to visualize what that's like when you get that last commission check that gives your savings account enough money to do what you wanted to do, or when you step on that scale, whatever your goal may be, I want you to see it and visualize it. It's so important to the process. You have to feel it. You have to, what I said before, you have to internalize. What does it feel like to succeed? What does it feel like? Imagine yourself standing there, how proud you're going to be when you know that you accomplish whatever SMART goal that you set for yourself. Not just see it, visualize it, but feel it, truly feel it. You know, I know we were talking as managers at the beginning of the year about goals, and you know, feel one manager wanted, I think it was a new vehicle, and they wanted to smell the new leather of that new car smell. And they had to feel it. They had to feel that smell in order to get them to work towards that goal. That's what it means by see it, feel it, and then finally, T, trust it. Trust in yourself. Think about this, everybody. If you don't trust yourself, how is anybody else going to trust you? How's your spouse? How's your kids? How is your clients? How are they going to trust you if you do not trust yourself? It's so very important to have that trust in yourself. And this is one thing that it's an integrity thing. None of us can give you that trust. You have to get that trust for yourself. You have to trust yourself. I don't care what it takes. Look in the mirror at night. Stare at yourself while brushing your teeth. Trust yourself that you can accomplish whatever goal you set. SFT, see it, feel it, trust it. All right, let's jump into a little bit more time because this all goes back to the mindset. I would just like to know what you waste your time on. What is a drain on you? And unfortunately, you can't say family, like your kids, your spouse, anything like that. For me, my team, my favorite football team is the Denver Broncos. Even though I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, the Broncos have always been my favorite team, hence Tebow, John Elway, Peyton Manning reference. Last night, the Broncos played Wayne Weaver's Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football. My kids, my dogs, my wife are all asleep. I stayed up to the very last second of that game, pacing around the living room. I was nervous as can be. Like I'm wasting 3.5 hours of my energy, stress, yelling at the TV. I was so mad, then I was so happy. I wasted so much of my energy last night, and I don't know why. I don't know why I do this. If they would have lost that game last night, it wouldn't have changed my life personally or professionally in any way. But yet, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of sports. I'm a fan of the Broncos, and I live and die with each game, and it drives me crazy, and I don't know how to stop it. But I'm just being very honest and open with you. This is what wastes my time and energy is following them as much as I do. Yours, what is yours? Everybody's different, but I wanted to throw this stat out there. In 2023, a study showed that the average American watches 3 hours of TV per day. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Last night I fell into that category because I watched the Broncos game for 3.5 hours. And you know what? I think I had the pregame on a half hour before that. So there's 4 hours. So the reason I put this in here is I want to turn it back into your goals, your SMART goals. If you're talking about time, like we did the previous couple of slides, and you're like, well, I don't have time to complete my goals. Well, start doing a time audit and say, you know what? What am I wasting my time on? You know, I wish I could stop watching the Broncos because it stresses me out. And you know what? They're 8-5, and they're hopefully going to make the playoffs this year, and it's going to be great. But you know what? It still stresses me out when I watch the game. So instead of doing that, can I work on something more productive? Well, yeah, I can. I need to work on that. I need to be able to not live and die with every play on the field and be able to, work towards the goal. But the question is up to you. Everybody has a different time energy waste. Maybe yours is TikTok. Maybe yours is social media. Maybe yours is watching soap operas during the day. I don't know what it is, but every single person has a time suck, an energy waste where their energy is not used to accomplish their goals, but their energy is being taken away and redirected to something that's really a waste of time. Ask yourself that question. All right. This is something that I use with my team, my coach, with agents, with myself. I have to remember failure is an event. It's not a person. Failure does not define who you are. We've all failed in life. I've failed absolutely miserably in multiple aspects of my life. But as long as I learned from that failure, as long as I understood that the failure was an event, that event I failed at. I did not accomplish that goal. I did not do what I needed to do. I failed. But you know what? I'm not a failure. And I need to realize that. That's why I love having some of my agents will write a goal or a saying down on a little sticky note, and they'll put it on their mirror. So when they take out their contacts at night or brush their teeth at night, they see that. And then guess what? When they wake up in the morning, they see that sticky note still there 12 hours later, 8 hours later, whatever it is. They put their contacts in, brush their teeth, they look at that goal, they look at that saying, you know what? You're not a failure. Every single one of us in this world has failed at something. Don't let that failure define who you are, because that failure was an event. It's not you as the person. All right, finally, I love this. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. Pretty much what it comes down to, again, I hope you got one thing out of my presentation today. It comes down to how you think about yourself, how you think about the problem that's been presented, your attitude and reaction. Because if you think you can do something, you definitely can do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We just talked through multiple ways of how to do that. If you think you can't do something, you're absolutely right. So as Alex Vidal said in those coaching sessions, he talked about everything that went in to do that Ironman, where he swam across from Alcatraz to California, then biked, then ran, did all that crazy stuff. If you think that somebody can accomplish that where they didn't think they could, you're crazy. Every single person has doubts. I get that. But ultimately, if you think you can accomplish something, you can. If you think you could be the number one sales agent in ERA next year, you can. Get with your manager. Get with me. Let's put a plan together in place to help you accomplish your goals in 2025. All right, everybody. That was my presentation on mindset. Again, I'm such a big believer in it. I'm more than happy to jump on calls, Zooms, if anybody wants to talk about anything further. But I'll open it up to any questions right now if you got them.
Hey, Dan, I don't have any, a question, but I love that eat the frog. So Dan Elzer always, would say, like, do that one thing you hate first thing in the morning. I say hate, but the toughest one of your mind, do it first thing. And after you make that one call, the next 20 are going to be easy. The rest of your tasks are going to be easy for the day. It's just, otherwise it's just hanging over you all day long. Like you said, if you're just like, tomorrow morning you're going to get up. Well, I'll do it tomorrow morning. Like, you're going to be fearing it. So it's so crazy. It's hard for us, but man, you just do that thing, just get it done. First of all, it's going to be good for you. Second of all, it's going to be mentally good for you. So but I never kind of heard of that Eat the Frog. So I took a picture of that book and I'm excited to get it. So
Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you everybody for jumping on the call today. And thank you to everybody that will be watching this recording in the future. And good luck this month of working on that mindset.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Take care, everyone.